So here's the deal. We're diving into a really fascinating and honestly, a pretty tangled situation coming out of Turkey. You've got the main opposition party basically sending out an SOS to Europe, asking, hey, why are you so quiet while we're facing this democratic crackdown? But as we're about to see, the story behind Europe's silence, well, it's a lot more complicated than you might think. And it all really kicks off with this. A very human, very powerful quote from Dilek İmamoğlu, who is the wife of Istanbul's jailed mayor. You can just feel the disappointment in those words, right? The sense of being left behind. It immediately puts a human face on this whole political mess and shows you just how high the stakes are for the people involved. And her personal plea, it's being echoed loud and clear by her husband's political party, the CHP. The party's new leader, Özel, has been taking this message straight to European capitals. He's officially accusing these governments of just turning a blind eye, while, in his words, Turkish democracy is being taken apart piece by piece. So the argument they're making is pretty straightforward, and it's a powerful one. They're saying, look, Europe, you talk a big game about being a champion of democracy, but right here on your doorstep, our opposition party is being targeted, and all we hear is silence. They're essentially putting a choice on the table. Are you with a democratic Turkey, or are you okay with authoritarianism? But, and this is a huge but, this is where the story takes a very sharp turn. We're about to open up what the source material calls a politically sensitive file, an inconvenient history that makes everything, well, messy. And that's the central question we really have to ask ourselves here. Is Europe's silence just a case of hypocrisy, or maybe it's just cold, hard politics? Or could there be something more to it? Does this silence actually have roots in the past? This brings us to a really key accusation being leveled against the CHP by its critics. It's this idea of selective memory. The argument is that the party's desperate plea for help now conveniently forgets its own actions from just a few years ago, actions that might have directly led to the very silence they're now complaining about. So let's get specific. We need to rewind the clock to the period right after that failed coup attempt in Turkey back in 2016, because this is where the plot really, really thickens. This timeline is absolutely crucial to understanding what's going on. So July 15th, 2016, a violent, chaotic coup attempt fails. In the months and years that followed, the Turkish government put together official delegations to send abroad. And here's the kicker. These groups included members of the opposition CHP party. It wasn't until 2018 that a former insider decided to blow the whistle on what they were really up to. So what was this secret mission? Well, according to the sources, it went something like this. The government, led by President Erdogan himself, actually reached out to the opposition for help. Their job was to travel to European capitals and sell the government's official story, to defend the crackdown that followed the coup, and, this is critical, to assure foreign leaders that all those reports of torture and mistreatment were totally false. And look, this isn't just a rumor or speculation from outsiders. This quote is from Eren Erdem, a former CHP lawmaker. He was on the inside. He's the one who came out and confirmed that, yes, members of his own party were sent on these missions to sell the government's narrative. And this quote, wow, this really tells you everything you need to know about the impact they had. Or, I guess, the lack of impact? According to the account, this is what French officials allegedly told them. A theater. They just weren't buying it. This one line suggests that European leaders were already deeply, deeply skeptical of the whole thing, even while members of the Turkish opposition were trying to convince them it was all legitimate. So, okay, we have the past. How does all of that baggage connect to the political jam the CHP finds itself in today? Let's connect the dots. Fast forward to now, the current CHP leader, Özel, doesn't actually deny that this happened. He confirms it, but he frames it completely differently. He says it was an act of national unity, that his party was just standing with the Turkish state to explain a violent attack on democracy. The betrayal, in his version of the story, came later, when President Erdogan turned that same state power against his political opponent. This slide just lays it out so clearly, doesn't it? It's a tale of two completely different messages. The message back then was, essentially, trust the Turkish state, believe our official story, and ignore those nasty rumors of abuse. The message now? Help us. Why are you silent? You need to intervene. You can kind of see why some European officials might be feeling a bit of political whiplash. So, for the critics, the conclusion is pretty stark. They argue that Europe's silence today didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was shaped by that early state narrative.
The opposition itself helped normalize the whole post-coup environment for the rest of the world. And in a really tragic twist of irony, they may have helped legitimize the very state machinery that has now turned around and is being used against them. Now, to be absolutely clear, none of this complicated history makes the jailing of Mayor Imamoglu any less real. The pressure on the opposition is happening, it's severe, and it's serious. But this context goes a long, long way in explaining why the international cavalry hasn't exactly come riding to the rescue.
And that's what it all boils down to, really. This one single massive question. It's the political reckoning at the heart of this whole story. Can a political party credibly ask the world for help and solidarity without first taking a hard look in the mirror and addressing its own complicated role in how things got this bad? That's the question that's hanging over everything.